as a crisis communicator, what are the 3 lessons learned that you want to share today?
The most important is take care of the well-being of the staff members. Staff members of the crisis communication team are not first responders, and most of the time there is a good aftercare for the first responders, and it's totally normal. But also for the crisis communication team and the staff members of the crisis communication team, there's still, or there can be, an emotional impact of such a crisis. You work under pressure, you work several days, weeks under pressure, and that will have an impact, an emotional impact. We saw this during COVID crisis, but also during a terrorist attack. So that's something that we really take into account nowadays, the well-being of the staff members. And that starts with, for example, foreseeing some food, that kind of things. Even during a crisis, take the time to discuss with your colleagues. How are you doing? Everything is okay? That kind of, even simple questions, but you have to take into account the well-being of your of the staff members. Another important lesson learned for me is taking into account difficult reachable target groups. For example, deaf people, people without an internet access, low literated people. We saw it during the COVID crisis that our messages don't reach all the population. So we used different communication channels. We used deaf interprets. We translate our messages in more than 20 languages. So that was really a lessons learned from the COVID crisis, and that's something that we will take into account also in other crises. And a last point, I think, is use different communication channels. Don't rely on 1 or 2 communication channels. And sometimes it's not only about high-tech communication channels, for example, a cell broadcasting system. It can also be a very low-tech communication channel. It can be, just a public address in the streets, for example. So use different communication channels, because not everyone is following you on Twitter. Not everyone has access to the internet. So use different communication channels to reach all the population.